Welcome to Fabulous Women Over 40, hosted by celebrity stylist Kara Allan. Join Kara as she interviews amazing women, sometimes younger and amazing men as well, in their 40s and beyond. Here's Kara with our Fabulous Woman of the Day.
Welcome to the Fabulous Over 40 podcast. I'm your host, Kara Allan, transformational personal stylist for men and women 40 plus and younger sometimes. And today we're talking about reigniting, reclaiming your radiance, how to get your sparkle back. You felt like you're in midlife, I want to call it crisis, but we're in midlife awakening, midlife glow. Because this should be some of the best times of our lives. And if you're not there, we're going to get you there. But I wanted to talk today about my story and how I ended up being the style goddess, which that's been a long journey. I've been a stylist now for 22 years, and that started long before I actually started having a business and everything else. So today we're going to talk about my humble beginnings. Not so humble, maybe, but how I got started. So I grew up in a household of 4 children with my parents, and my mom was a teacher, my dad was an engineer, and they had very much emphasis on education and wanting you to get good grades. But I won't say that there was much compassion in the house. Let's just say that. It was a little harsh. My dad was a very big disciplinarian, and all of us don't react well to that, let's just say. And this isn't to talk about them to bash them or anything like that. It's just to give you kind of a picture of why I became the woman that I've become and why it matters. So for me, I always felt like nothing I ever did was good enough. That was my perspective from, a young woman, a young child, a young teenager. It just felt like if it wasn't 100%, if it wasn't A's all the way through, then you weren't good enough. And that just made me feel very invisible and not seen in my house. And clothes became an escape for me, and also books and music and movies. My dad did take me to the movies quite a bit. My mother taught me to read. I was reading before I was in kindergarten. So all of those things became an escape for me. And when I was about 12, I made the decision that my mother wasn't going to dress me anymore. Don't ask me why. I don't even remember what the thought process was about that or how it came about. I just decided. So I started picking out my own clothes, and I figured that found out that I had a knack for doing that. And I will say I felt invisible, not just in my house, but I felt invisible in school. I felt invisible in church. I just didn't feel seen in general. And not that I needed to be the star of the show or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like I was seen, heard, or understood. I'll leave that there. So once I started showing up in school in my new outfits, all of a sudden it was like people saw me and they started talking to me and treating me differently. And I thought, that's interesting. Maybe if I had that issue, some other people did too. So this was around, I was probably in, I don't even know, maybe 10th, 11th grade, 10th grade maybe. And I had started working at the local mall. I think my first job was at a candy store, but then after that I worked at Lady Foot Locker, I was working at Express, I worked at Petite Sophisticate, I worked at Ann Taylor, and then there was another, I think 379, that doesn't exist anymore, but I did work at that store. And I really enjoyed helping people find a look or an outfit that made them feel seen and lit up, versus just trying to sell them some clothes. We had our goals that we were supposed to do and all of that. But I really focused on helping people find something that made them feel great and would help them show up better in their life. And I remember this one lady when I was working at Petite Sophisticate. She was so cute. She was going home to her parents to show them her new boyfriend. She wanted a new outfit. And so we picked out a couple of things and we tried them on. And my first instinct when I looked at it was like, no. But I didn't say that out loud. Then the other salesperson that just happened to be standing there, she asked both of us, what do you think? And I said nothing. I just looked. And the other lady was like, oh, it looks great. It's fabulous. It's, yes, you love it. And I was just like, okay. And then she teetered off. And I looked at her and she was like, what do you really think? And I said, I think we can find you something better. And we did. And she was so happy. She felt so confident. She felt like she was going to be able to show up at her parents. And really, she put on those clothes and forgot about them because now she knew she looked good and she could focus on enjoying being with her parents and introducing them to her new boyfriend. And that was a defining moment for me because I thought, yeah, I want people to have that experience because that makes everything in your life better. When you know you can show up at a meeting, at an interview, on a date, anything, and you're not concerned or upset about what you have on, and because all of that is energy, and all of that transfers to the people around you. So you could be the best accountant, you could be the best lawyer, you could be the best whatever it is that you do. But if you walk into a room and you have all this concern that's focused on your dress is too tight, the jacket's too big, or your shoes aren't comfortable, or whatever it is, that energy transfers. People feel it. They don't know what it is because they can't necessarily put words to it, but they just know they don't feel comfortable in your presence. But I turned that off. And they don't know what to do with it. So it's like, she seems like a good candidate, but there's just something off, and I don't know what it is. How many times have you had a missed opportunity because you didn't feel comfortable in your clothes and you didn't even know it? You didn't even know it. I've had times where I've had people walk up to me at different networking events and they say, oh, I'm an accountant, or I'm this, or I'm that. But they look like they just rolled out of bed. So after a while, you just kind of glaze over. And this happens with everybody. And people want to say, oh, it's superficial, I shouldn't have to worry about it. People who say that are not comfortable with getting dressed. They're not comfortable with putting on clothes and knowing that they look good. And there's no shame in that. Like, all of us weren't born to be the best dressed person. That's why people like myself exist. And you shouldn't have to miss out on opportunities or not want to go to opportunities because you don't feel comfortable in your clothing and don't feel like you have anything to wear, or just feeling all discombobulated because you're pulling at your sweater, you're pulling at your dress because it's too tight, or you don't feel comfortable in it, all of that stuff. And people notice. They don't know, but they notice. And people notice when you show up dressed well consistently, when you take pride in your appearance, when my great grandmother was Italian, and I visited Italy back in 2011, and I was just so impressed at how everyone in Italy is very well put together. Nobody's going to the grocery store in a ball gown, right? But they're very understated chic. And they have access to some of the most amazing Italian designers, but they don't wear all of them at once. They're not I like to call it label whores, because you won't see them wearing an Hermes belt and having an Hermes bag and all this other stuff. You might see one thing on them that's designer, but everything else you wouldn't even know what it is because that's just not what they do. But they're all very well put together. It's part of their culture. It's they call it la bella figura, meaning the beautiful bodies translated. So it's not just clothes. It's like a system of culture where you say, I have enough pride and pay enough attention to myself that I'm going to show up looking good, not just for myself, but for you. I don't want to show up to you for lunch or a meeting or whatever it is that we're doing looking crazy. Like I just said, I'm not feeling it today. I'm just going to shuffle out of my pajamas. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. 0% chance we're doing that in 2025. Okay. And I get it. You might not have the biggest budget for your, and you don't have to. I'm never a person that's going to suggest to anybody that you need to be spending $1,000 on a jacket unless you have it to spend. I always recommend spending the best you can, buy the best quality you can, because you don't want to have to replace things. And we're in this era of fast fashion where we're just buying things and throwing them away, and that's not good for the environment. So we want to get away from that too. But back to me, just to let you know, yes, growing up in this harsh environment and the constant feeling of not being good enough, my clothes became a way armor, almost like a costume in a sense. Like, if I was feeling depressed, or if I was feeling sad, or just something, whatever was going on at the time in the house. And this is not just in my house of family, but when I got married and whatever might have been going on with my husband, or when I was single or whatever, something is always going on with us as women. And the one thing I would do, even if I didn't feel like it, like Elizabeth Taylor, one of those starlets, said, get up, put some lipstick on, and you fake it till you make it. And eventually you do show up that way, because that's how we were meant to be. We're women. We are meant to leave a little sparkle wherever we go. Wherever we go. And transversely, when we don't, we leave destruction in our wake in some senses. We wearing people out, yelling at people, acting crazy. That's just not who we were meant to be. So it matters. It matters how you show up in your life. It matters how you show up for yourself, firstly. It matters how you show up for your family and people around you. It's all important. And if you haven't been, the great news is you can start today. So even if you're, like I said, midlife glow, you could be mid-30s, you could be mid-40s, you could be mid-50s, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's, what are you going to do today to show up better for yourself, and consequently showing up better for people around you? Because everything, when we show up that way in our best, brightest selves, it elevates everything around us. Everything. And you might not be the size you want, you might not be, the weight you want, all those things, but it doesn't matter. You can still show up well. So that's all for today. We're going to talk tomorrow some more about other ways that we can reignite our radiance and reclaim our sparkle. So if you have any questions, you can send me a message, and I will chat with you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe so you won't miss our next conscious conversation with Kara and her fabulous guests. Follow Kara on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, @Kara Allan, and connect with her on her website at karaallan.com. Also, leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again, and see you next time.